Last week, we had a very exciting program dealing with the issue of internship. And based on the feedback that we got from last week's program, we decided to extend it and do a part two. This evening, we continue to look at the topic of internship and exactly how it benefits the intern, and what are the expectations both from the side of the point of view of the intern as well as the point of view of those who are offering the internship. Tonight we've put together a fantastic cast of individuals, of guests who know this thing inside out. So trust me, you're going to want to be a part of this. Share the like, share the live, call a friend, let them know that Up Late with Sion Marshall is on, and it begins right now. And it's a good Thursday night. And exactly what you usually be doing at this point, you're going to be doing now. You're going to pull out your coffee, your tea, you're going to call up your friend, you're going to share the live, you're going to let them know that Up Late with Sion Marshall is on. Like I said, we have a really fantastic cast of guests this evening, and I'm going to bring them into the room immediately one by one and introduce them to you, and we can get our discussion on. So we have now this is the most full you're going to ever see the screen because I've never had this many guests on the program ever. Um, but we have quite a number of guests this evening. We have Mrs. Villette Brown of which institution should I introduce you for Villette? Should it
I'm gonna
be
be sitting in for Bronx Initiative with Kyle.
all right? That sounds good. Um, and we also have, I think I'm getting feedback. Anyway, I'll sort it out. As well as Kyle, her son. We also have Mr. Kelson Bowens. He's the dean at the St. Vincent and Grenadines Community College Division of Technical Vocational Studies. And we have Mrs. Gwyneth Anthony and Antoinette Duncan from the youth department. So, like I said, we have a really broad cast of guests this afternoon or this evening, and we're going to be continuing the topic of internship. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to Uplift with Sia Marshall.
Good evening.
Good
Yes.
evening.
Good
Okay,
evening, and thank you very much for having
I
me.
am sort my hearing out because I'm getting a feedback and I don't like that. All right, I'm gonna have to sort that out. Let's see. I need to change my headphones. Anyway, all right. Now we're going to look at internship. Mrs. Anthony and Miss Duncan, you're from the U department. You are primarily in charge of the Yes program. Mr. Bowens, the community college technical vocational division has what has been commonly referred to as attachment, but we know it's an internship program essentially where you send your students out for a short period, not as long as the Yes program, but an internship nonetheless. And Mrs. Brown, you also mentioned to me, and I did hear before that you are also part of an internship in more ways than one. But I want to start with our guests from the youth department who have been in charge of who are in charge of running the Yes program and have been doing this for a while. Tell us a little bit about what the expectations are of the Yes program when you put the call out and people apply, these interns apply. What exactly are the expectations or that you have that you expect those interns to get from the program? And do you think that sometimes there is a failure to intersect those expectations between what you have and what those individuals who are applying have?
Okay. Good evening again, everyone.
Go ahead. I'm not sure who is feeding back there, but I'm getting a
Sorry,
feedback.
yes. Are you hearing me better now?
Yes.
Okay. So my name is Gwyneth Anthony, and I am the youth officer, and I'm responsible for the youths within the Ministry of National Mobilization. And as you mentioned, we have a program called the YES program, and the right name for it is the Youth Empowerment Service Program. This program has been in existence since 2001, and we have been training or assigning young people to various institutions. As mentioned, it's a process, and the first process is to register on the program. So you do your basic registration, you supply us with your birth certificate, identification number, qualification, whether CXC, skills training, etc. And then a selection is done, and based on the placement, they are attached for 1 year, be it a school and an office, etc. So that is how we start our program.
Now, you mentioned there's a will come to that program, uh, but sometimes I get the sense that they do not see it for what it should be with internship. Sometimes I get the sense that they think that they're getting a job. Um, what type of uh, um, what's the word I want to use? Uh, Initiation, not the right word. What's the word? Help me out.
Orientation.
Orientation. Thank you very much.
Orientation.
Okay.
That's it. That's it. What type of orientation
Okay.
uh, do those interns go through? And do you think that at that point you're able to convey to them what the expectations are and what the program is all about?
Okay. Once they are selected, because there's a shortlisting, because we train 500 persons per year. And once there's a shortlisting of those persons and they are selected, then we bring them into orientation. At the orientation, we just give them basic instruction as is what is expected in the workplace, because we would have already identified those places. So hence, a lot of them are not exposed. It's their first time going on to into the world of work. So hence, we sort of give them the basic instruction as to what is expected, and from there we just work with them. So we work along with them as well as the persons or the places where they are attached.
Okay. Uh, um, Mr. Boyens, you also have your program, your internship program called Attachment at the Community College. What is it like for you in preparing those students to go out, and what do you expect? What are the objectives? Some of the objectives for those students going out into the world on attachment, as you refer to it, but on that 6 week or 8 week internship? I'm not hearing you, Mr. Boyens. I think you're muted.
Yes, thanks very much for having me. And as you indicated, the technical division of the St. Vincent and Grenadines Community College, we do have an internship, or you call it an attachment program, and it has been in place for as long as the technical division, previously technical college, would have been in existence since about the 1970s. Now, this program basically is a program intended to orient the young people, persons completing a program of study, to the world, to the real world of work. It's one thing to have studied, to have been involved in the theoretical application of concepts in the classroom, understand how things are done, and but it's something else to transition from that classroom setting into the real world um, world of work. Now, one of the things that we expect is that work is different to study, and we want to ensure that our graduates, upon completion of their course of study, the area that they have done their studies in, that they apply those concepts in the real world of work. And one of the things that we want to have them do, the expectations that we have, is the understanding that there is a work culture. There's a culture in the workspace, and we want to ensure that we bring you in line with the expectation of the workplace culture. For example, the understanding that you have to, the way in which you dress, the way in which you prepare yourself, the way in which you understand your supervisors, the way in which you interact with your colleagues in the workplace. All these are things that we expect the interns or the persons going in attachment to be able to learn and develop, and to develop those skills over a 6 week period or an 8 week period. And we're hoping that, having done that, they combine that workplace culture with the theoretical concepts that they would have learned, and they bring that together to see if they are the state of readiness, as you might say, for continuation in the workspace.
All right, Boyens, thank you very much. Uh, Now you said a lot, and there's a lot for us to unpack there, and we'll revisit some of those themes later on in the program. Mind you, we only have an hour, but I'm sure we'll do a pretty good job at least getting some bite sizes out of some of those concepts that you raised. Mrs. Brown, Kyle,
Yes.
you also have an internship program, but also, Mrs. Brown, if I may, you function in another capacity where you also work along with the community college technical vocational division in dealing with some of or partnering with them for their internship program. So I guess I could ask two questions, and one for you and one for Kyle. How has your internship program, I believe it's called the Brown Initiative,
Yes.
how has that been going? What was the idea behind starting that program, and how has that been going? Firstly, and secondly, in terms of those uh, interns from the community college who you take on based on the partnership that you have, what type of gap do you see existing between what they have when they come and what they should be when they leave?
Okay. I'll allow Kyle to speak on the initiative because that would have been his brainchild, and then I will address what you asked about the actual functioning.
Good night. Thanks for
Good night,
having
Kyle.
me. So, this internship program stemmed from my personal experience on internship. In 2021, I went on an internship in Jamaica, and I realized the opportunities that were being presented to me, or not so much the opportunities, but the experiences. I got to network. I learned different procedures, certain workplace ethics that I wouldn't have grasped outside of the workspace. I got them, and I sat down one day talking to my mom, and I told her, I said, if I hadn't gotten experience from her as a child, I used to have to walk every now and then, carnival, I wiping tables instead of being on the road. But it paid off because I was ready. When I went into the workplace, there wasn't really a gap. It was more of a rely on my foundation and understand what is being thrown at me. I then decided to start a program. I came back home, went to grammar school. I asked them if I could get 5 students. I got my mom to train them in customer service training and a little preparation before they went out on attachment. And we've been growing since then. It's not much. This is third year approaching this summer, but we've gone from one school to 4 schools, 5 students to almost over 40
Wow.
in short time frame. And the students themselves have a level of accountability that they have to upkeep. They have a log, they have supervisors, and they have a report to submit. Also, they tag along with, I would say, bosses or their managers or their supervisors, but we try to select individuals who can give them a good understanding or set up proper example for them. So when they go back to school, these are Form 4 students that are heading to Form 5. So when they go back to school, they are ready, they're motivated, they know this is the steps I have to take to get where I want to go. And it kind of gives them a direction. When they go into college, I study in this, so I have to put the emphasis here. So when I get to college, I could get my subjects here, so I could now go on to the next step. So that is basically the whole idea wrapped up in a summary.
All right, now, Kyle, let me commend you for that because you're a young man, and already you are looking at your own responsibility and giving back. And I must commend you. It is not very often that we hear about, and it's not that they're not there, but we may not hear about young men, young people who are doing positive things. And so I'm really happy that you are on this program, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines can know that young people out there, they're not just wearing their pants down to their knees and getting involved in trouble, but they're also doing positive things and empowering other people, other young people as well. Mrs. Brown, so you also take people from students from the technical college, as we call it,
Okay, let me
and you
address
work with
that.
them. So let's talk about that gap.
We have not taken students from the technical college for some years. We used to take students a few years back when we had the structure to do that. This year, coincidentally, we have signed back on to the technical college, but we do facilitate other persons who want to do short internships with us. So the community college and the technical college students who do attachments, as we call it, we hadn't done that for a few years, and the reason why we had not done it is because we were finding it challenging to integrate them at the point that we were at in our companies. However, this year they reached out to us and we have actually signed on to start that again. So that is just to clarify that. In terms of the question that you raised in terms of the functioning of the interns in the workplace, uh, we've had mixed situations. Some students perform exceptional, and we actually would have kept some of those students and they would have excelled tremendously, moved from frontline tellers and become supervisors and managers and moved on to bigger jobs elsewhere. So we've had that experience. We've also had the experience where some have struggled, they struggle, and our task is usually to help them. We see the interns as our babies, as persons who we are trying to mold, and we assess some persons may have come from environments where even though the school would have done as much as it could do, that the environment did not facilitate them to really fit into a culture of discipline and ethics. And that's where we have found the greatest part of our reward is being able to find the students who are willing, obviously, to listen and to take the advice that we give. In terms of the operational, we've never really had a lot of issues with the operational aspect of it. For example, if you have a student from technical and that student is in accounting, and we put them into our accounting department and we say, okay, we teach them basic stuff, they get that. They get that. But the challenge comes is deeper, is deeper, and it goes to a lot of societal issues where regular workplace issues, and that is where we have found that our in the greatest struggle with having the interns, but also the greatest reward when we're able to find those interns who are willing to listen and who we can help to mold to become the best that they can become.
All right. And again, like with Mr. Bowens' introduction, there are a number of themes coming out there and the importance of the society. You see, already, those of you who are listening and those of us here, we realize that there's so many facets to this thing that we call internship, and an individual who's applying for the yes program or somebody who's at the technical college getting ready for attachment may just think, I'm jumping in to quote unquote work, but there's so many different things at play. Um, let's go back to our guest from the youth department. I'm not sure which of you would answer the question, but what exactly are you looking for in your yes interns? You say you train close to 500 individuals every year. What exactly are you looking for? What are some of the things that you look for in them? And if you can give us an idea of what goes into the training for somebody who's listening right now who plans to make an application for the yes program a little later on this year when the call goes out, what are you looking for in them, and exactly what give an idea of what goes into the training? Miss Anthony, you're muted, so let you could unmute now.
All right. Good night
Yes,
again.
yes.
All right. For in the past on the yes program, we modify it for this year, for this past year. And in the past, we just used to just, they used to just be on the program for 1 year. And those that who came on with subjects, without subjects, they will leave without, going to uplift themselves. Uplift themselves and in self-development. But this time around, we modify it and we're saying that persons who didn't come out, who came on the program with no subjects or without the 5 subjects or more to enter the public service, they are entitled to go to an adult evening classes and uplift themselves. So at least they can come out with 1 or 2 subjects, whatever, and also with a skill. I mean, going through the program for a year and then just attach somewhere and then come out with nothing. A skill is very important, you know. And
Hmm.
then
Hmm.
also we involve the we call it self-help. Self-help like it gone out the window. So we try to bring in the volunteerism along with the yes trainees. So we incorporate where they can clean the environment, like cleaning the beach or somewhere, beautify the environment wherever they live. Also, to help out on the farm and do a documentary of the elderly, because many times a lot of elderly person pass and they gone with their knowledge about wherever. For instance, say like in Beckway, um, people don't really know much about Beckway, like in Hamilton or whatever, and then we could get some aged person to tell us the story about Hamilton.
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
and I must say too that we meet the unemployed. We call it the National Youth Service, where we meet with all youths in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Sure, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We meet with the unemployed youths, also with the police youth clubs, and the fourth form students in secondary school. Because as you know, our age group is 16 to 29. We might go a little to 30, right? But yeah, so that is what the changes that we make in the YES program.
So you mentioned that there isn't sometimes individuals may not have O level. So that's the first starting point. An individual doesn't need to have O levels to be on the yes program.
No, please.
Mm.
No.
Now, do you find that the attitude towards the Yes program is one of access to training and opportunity, or is it more of a situation where the idea is I'm coming for a job? And do they like, because you just said that it's about training, it's about a skill. Do they at the end of the tenure acquire that training and that skill that was the objective at the beginning?
You want to answer?
Okay. To answer that, Sion, with Duncan mentioned where they would come on without any CXE, and that is something that we have encouraged them as part of when we have our orientation. I didn't mention that to you when I spoke and I speak to you earlier, but these are some of the things that we put out in the initial stage of the program, because we realize there are some shortcomings among our young people, right? So we just want them to get that skill. Now, additionally, some of them have never ever worked in their lives. So it's their first time, so they are going with no experience at all. But whatever they would have learned in school or at a workshop or etc., we expect them to go into that institution where they're attached and to use it to the best of their ability. I mean, they're not fully loaded, but whatever skills they have and whatever they can, whichever way they can use it, then we expect them to use it. Nonetheless, we do support them along the way, because sometimes we would pull them into sessions, short sessions, things like in financial management, etc., how to use their stipend, how they can contribute to the development of St. Vincent and the Grenadines in terms of knowing about the different symbols, the use of your national ID card, etc. So there are lots of things that they would leave. So whenever they leave the program, they may not leave with everything, but at least they are better equipped to enter the world of work should they be transported into the world of work. And let me say, while I am here, that we have had many success stories of persons who came onto the program and would have gotten permanent employment based on their work ethics and their whole overall development in terms of applying themselves while they in at the institution or wherever they are attached on the program.
And those success stories are important. Just last week, we had two guests on the program. One of them was a Yes program intern as a coordinator, but he moved on. He used the time to develop himself, get some O levels, and now he's a registered nurse. So, and he
Definitely.
talked about the discipline and so forth that he was able to develop while on the program. Mr. Bowens, now one of the interesting thing about this evening's program and the discussion that we're having is that you're looking at three different demographics essentially. You're looking at Form 4 students who are able to take advantage of the opportunities from the Brown Initiative. You're looking at students at the technical vocational division of the community college who are between maybe 17 and maybe 2021, and you're looking at uh, more senior youths up to maybe 30 who are able to take advantage of the Yes program and get some training and at least a bridge towards the world of work. In terms of the technical college, Mr. Bowens, how has the program changed over the years? And do you think that currently, based on the demands of our market, of our job market, that your program is fulfilling its goal?
Okay, thanks again. And I just want to if I could just go back to just address a little bit of what Mrs. Brown would have said in relation to the mixed reviews that from some of the interns coming out from the technical division of the college, and the extent to which some have struggled and they have added value to some. I wanted us to make the point again that the internship, it is intended really to be a win-win for both the employee or the employer, sorry, or the place where we are attaching the interns. It's also intended to be a win for the intern, as we consider any intern to be a potential employee. Any intern has the potential. I usually say to them that it's a foot in the door for which you are either going to be seeking employment at that place that you have been attached, or you're going to be able to network from the place of your attachment to other similar institutions or workplaces, and you're able to find yourself some sort of employment. So it is very good when we have reviews and that kind of feedback, so we understand how we can change our program. And as even within the question that you're asking directly, Sian, how we have changed, one of the things that we look for in terms of how we change and how we expanded the program is the feedback that we get from our partners in the in our attachment or internship program. We are constantly depending on the reviews that are coming from our partners. So, for example, we partner with all large and small employers in St. Vincent and Grenadines, from the St. Vincent Brewery, ECGC, Vinlec, to the smaller institution like Mrs. Brown is referring to. So we get reviews from them, and from those reviews, we're able to change and see how things should be different. For example, a reference that was made to the technical skills that people have. One of the things that we have always learned is that our students, our interns that they go into the workplace, they are always strong on their technical skills. That is, if you've been trained in the field of accounting, you do have very strong accounting background and you can execute that quite well. If you've been trained in electrical installation, if you've been trained in the area of human relations, in area of business, you're quite well in terms of what you're doing there. What we have learned is that the area of soft skills is one that is quite lacking. And in the recent times, we have allowed our programs to be more involved in terms of ensuring that our persons, before they go on attachment, to understand those softer skills that are going to allow them to excel in the workplace. Because it is very easy for an employer to employ and train somebody that is trainable. So we have within recent times, and this is coming from quite a wide cross section of the employment sector. Within the hospitality industry, for example, soft skills is a huge part of what goes on there, and therefore we have to know and that we intertwine that in what we're doing, and not compromise on the technical skills, but ensure that we do a good mix of the technical strong skills and ensure that our students have the softer skills that are going to allow them to be able to sustain themselves in the workplace.
Okay. Mrs. Brown, let's talk a little bit about attitude. One of the things that Kyle spoke about is the training that you offer to the interns before you put them or you attach them to different areas for the period. How how would you describe the attitude of some of our interns? And we go back to something that you raised, the general societal trends. We understand certain vulnerabilities. We understand that, like you mentioned, some students may not come from conducive homes that are conducive and supportive towards their own development. Uh, so, taking all of that into consideration, how much of an attitude problem is the question I want to ask? Do we have with our young interns that we have to address?
Okay. Um, I don't want to bash, but generally speaking, it is said that we have very poor customer service in our country. Generally speaking, the complaints, and I'm speaking about the complaints from our locals. And Bowen spoke about the soft skills, and when we when we receive interns or when we prepare our interns, we spend a lot of time. A simple thing as good morning,
Mm.
thank you, are things that are not as commonplace and as easy for our young people to do and to say as we think. So we do a lot of role plays, and we give them the information. The challenge is that sometimes the information that is on the airwaves that fills our young people's ears, it's not positive. It's not dominantly positive. So what you receive in is what you're gonna give out. And so with that particular challenge, that hurdle, what we tend to do is to let the interns, whether it's our interns or those that we receive, understand through our training program is what is in it, what VFM, what's in it for me. When I operate in a manner that pleases a customer, or that my, whether it's my internal or my external customer, whoever the stakeholders are, what does that do for me? How does that reflect on me? What is it I am trying, what is my brand? What am I trying to say about myself? What, when people receive me, what am I offering? We always say to them, every individual, you are a business. You have a service and you're selling your service. You would like persons to buy that service. In order for persons to buy that service, these are the things that you need to portray to command the biggest pay. Because yes, we go to school and we learn mathematics, accounting, sciences, whatever it is. But the application of our functionality in the workplace is not just that. It is, can I work in a group? And that's what we do. We do group work. One of the things that was not raised is that in our initiative, we aim for students who would not normally have the opportunity. We aim for those students who are potentially gonna be left behind because they are vulnerable and they do not have the chance. So those are the ones we aim at. So generally speaking, that is what we do and how we do it.
Well, that is a positive, I believe, something positive where you're focusing on the more vulnerable, because usually the more vulnerable you are, the less exposed you are to opportunities, and it is good that you're
Correct.
focusing on the vulnerabilities. The Yes program, and I'm trying to cover as much as possible because you have such short time. The Yes program, and I'm building on something that I'm building on Mrs. Brown, does both the private sector and the public sector. Is there, do you see a difference in the outcomes at the end of the period between interns, yes, trainees who have done their stint in the public sector as opposed to the private sector? And the reason I'm raising this is because there is always discussion about the difference in attitude slash efficiency between the public sector and the private sector. From your experience, Mrs. Anthony, Ms. Duncan, do you see that as something that is very, very obvious?
So,
Okay,
I think
first
I
of
think you're
all,
muted.
yes, okay, first of all, I want to talk about the soft skills. Yes, we do teach the YES trainees about soft skills, and also the NYS, as the National Youth Services, which is the unemployed youth, the police youth club, and also um, the fourth forms in secondary school throughout St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We touch base with throughout St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So yes, we really do a great impact on the soft skills, because I know that really needed. Oh, that is that also mesh with the technical and the soft skills. And the question there is that the private sector, I believe from what I've encountered, the private sector have a more positive, I must say positive on the yes trainees. I don't know,
Mm,
Miss Anthony, you want to elaborate on that?
okay. It is not to say that the public sector is not performing at a high level, but standards are set across organizations. And for instance, punctuality is something that we stress to our young people. you should get to work on time. And many times I tend to take the government system for granted, and they would want to get there at any time, and for them it's not a problem. But we find sometimes from our own interaction with them that once they're attached to a private organization, they do that extra, they go the extra mile and they try their best to get there on time. So we want to encourage everyone, because we do that also to encourage everyone to perform, with the same level of enthusiasm, the same effort that you're going to give to the public sector, give it to the private sector. Because at the end of the day, it's training for you, it's internship, and you never know in what direction that this internship is going to take you. As I mentioned, it can have you in a permanent situation, or it can probably expose you to further learning or training abroad. So hence it is important for them to, to adhere to all of the instructions that are given to them. But so I just want to say that we don't want to say that the government sector or the private public sector is weak, but then they need to pay, they themselves, we have to do a lot of work to sort of encourage them, and we do it all the time. So that is something that we know that is supported across the ministry, and we would endeavor to do that.
Well, thank you very much, Mrs. Anthony, and you do not have to say it, but I guess I can, because I understand some of the inefficiencies of the public sector, and it's easy for yes interns to fall into what they perceive as the culture of the public sector. And if you're going into office where people are always late, then after you soak in, as we say, you start to come just as late as everybody else. So I think what is important in that regard, because you're not the ones managing the specific departments, would be that level of management from the departmental level to ensure that the trainees, the attaches, are functioning the way they should function. Mr. Bowens, in terms of the development of the program or the continued uh, developing and adjusting of the program, how much input is there, or how much discussion is there between the division and the industry to one, tailor programs that are industry driven, that are in demand in industry, and also having an attachment program that serves the purpose of creating that bridge between academics, between school, between academic training, and between the world of work? How much interaction engagement is there between your department, the college, and industry?
Okay. So that's a very solid area that the technical division of the college is currently reviewing its attachment policy, and how we can use that attachment policy to ensure that we create a different culture within the workplace, and we 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 change the way things are done within the workplace. So again, we are constantly in conversation with the areas of our partners. So one of the things that we want to know from them, for example, the in the hospitality industry, we have what we call lead bodies or groups within the different sectors: construction sector, the hospitality sector, business, and all of those sectors. We have our lead groups, our lead bodies, and what we do, we meet with these lead bodies to understand how are standards, for example, changing within these specific sectors. So, for example, again, in the hospitality sector, there are the expectations of trainees, of employees in relation to their technical skills, so that persons who are like either in front desk, how is it that you interact with your interaction with the guests, and how should that interaction be according to set standards internationally and regionally, in relation to the interaction in the construction and other workplaces, in relation to safety standards. We try to understand how safety standards are changing within the industry, and we use all of that technical information to build it into our program so that our interns, as they leave the institution, the gap between or the curve that is to be there between them being an intern and an employee is not that a steep curve, so that the employee does not have to provide that huge amount of training that make them into a good employee, an employee that is active and effective within the workplace. So in terms of the technical skills, we have, again, all of these lead bodies that we ensure that they provide us with information through discussions, and we use those discussions to inform how our programs are going to be changed. Because one of the things that we do understand is that our partners, they would like to have an employee, an intern, that is going to be proving their value to the company or to the institution. And that's one of the things that we always ask our interns. So how do we get our intern to show their value or show how they can add value to the company? Is that we get information specific from the companies as to how is it that we can make our interns more effective. And that information is used to inform how we prepare our interns for the attachment that they're going on.
Kyle, I want to jump to you because I know you're into valuation and quantity surveying and so forth. So I'm wondering, your internship program, the Brown Initiative, is it specifically focused to that area, or do you have partnerships with other firms as well, so that your program is not just something where you partner with the Form 4s, but you also partner with other companies to attach those individuals too?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yes. We have the initiative is split into two aspects. So we have a more technical side and we have a general side. The general side is with a partnership, like you just asked, with multiple companies. Um, we've had uh,
Insurance.
insurances, some in the construction in the sector, we've had some fabrication,
Retail.
retail. We've had some young entrepreneurs who have taken students. Um, what we try to do is see these students' interests. Before we get the students, there's a screening process done in the schools. So these teachers have a idea of what we're looking for, or the qualities we're looking at, or the qualities we're trying to develop in the students. So it kind of guides them towards the students that they would select, and then would place them according to their interests. The technical side of it is, well, that was last year. It was the first time we tried that. We did a course with our high school, Introduction to Estimating. We had the students go to a site visit and develop plans, compare, and they came together, split up one simple project into multiple parts, and had them team up and push forward a final project.
Okay. So that this is a broader partnership outside of and beyond Bronx Valuation and Quantity Surveillance Services. It includes other partners as well.
Yeah, and
Fantastic.
just to add, Sion, that this year, Kyle continues. We just reached out to we did reach out to technical, and we reached out to community college because we have an opportunity now to get into the GIS line of internship, which has the potential for employment. So we're currently
Mhm.
awaiting some feedback on potential interns so that the program will be extended even further into that aspect of GIS, um, so that we are creating opportunities, because a lot of times what we've found is that persons are not aware of the fields that are
Mhm. Mhm.
lucrative and
Mhm.
that are available that they can do. So we're trying to create more exposure to other areas. So this year, GIS is going to be added to our internship.
Excellent. And if I could add to that, before Frankie, and I met Frankie years ago as a young man going to the bank. And before him, I think if anything, I might say he popularized the whole idea of quantity surveying, bring it in a serious,
Undoubtedly.
real formal way.
Yes.
Because so those fields are some of the less traditional ones, some of the less known ones, and so it's good that you are exposing the young people who are going to school that it's no longer just lawyer, doctor, nurse, police, and teacher, but there's so many other areas that we can
Correct.
branch off into. So that's really a great thing. Now I'm going to throw out this one, and anybody could jump on it because it's controversial. But to what extent, to what extent can these programs, these internship programs, maybe not so much your program or technical, but maybe more the yes program, be exploited as a source of cheap labor? Because I mean, mind you, internationally, the UN and so forth, they don't pay stipend. So when you get an internship at the UN, you have to find your way there, fly there. You have to uh, pay your own accommodation and take care of yourself for the 3 months or 6 months or what have you for the internship. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, with the YES program, there's a small stipend. To what extent do you think there is a real possibility that the objective of the program could be misused and it can be seen as a source of cheap labor as opposed to what it was really intended to do, a period of training and internship for someone who has essentially never had work, their first time of work, and to guide them into that, give them that guidance into that process?
Um, I would like to jump in here. I have not had the opportunity. We have not reached out to do the YES program. But in terms of internship, Sion, Bowens made a comment and he said it's a win-win. Now, generally speaking, the opportunity to be an intern is something that should be valued because you are being exposed. You have not been selected to be employed by this company, and you have an opportunity to learn, to be exposed, and to develop in an area that you may not have had that opportunity otherwise. So it's an opportunity. You are given a stipend to get you from point A to point B. It's not a salary. And the more we understand the intention of the internship. Now you said an employer may see it as a means of exploitation, but sometimes I speak as an employer.
Hmm.
It really takes some doing to fit in an intern because you have to, I would say, disrupt your regular flow. This person is not going to be with you over a year, beyond a year. You may take them in to do a specific project that you may have employed somebody and pay them more. But it's a win-win. And yes, some persons may look at it as it is exploitation because the person is working from 8 to 4, but they are only getting $1,000, $1,500. But what would that person have been doing otherwise? So I see it as an opportunity for the interns. And I always say to interns, when you get there, anything within ethical reasons that you have been asked to do it because you are given an opportunity to learn something new that no one can take from you.
If I may just jump in there, and I absolutely love the response from Mrs. Brown, and I think that the, the 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 potential to see the possibility for exploitation um, is real, and some persons might see that, but I do believe that within such a system, there might be, but in the larger scheme of things and seeing things in a more holistic way, I think that we ought to not even entertain the idea that that this can happen and possibly deter the a system of internship from progressing to what it ought to be. Um, if some of us remember, the first time we show up for whatever job that we first entered into, it could have been an intimidating, exciting, but intimidating in some ways, and that experience that the employer or the person who is the person who's hosting the intern, the experience and the impact that they can make there, that impact is lasting, because you welcome that intern, as Mrs. Brown said. It is not one where you are compelled to, but you are doing something for this intern that is going to impact him for the rest of his or her life. Because somebody made a point earlier on that a lot of these young people never had an opportunity to understand how work works. What are the expectations when you show up to work? And I think that there's nothing that can trump the fact that you had an opportunity to understand how the workplace really operates, and the impact that or the experiences that you gain there, I think, are quite lasting. It is a possibility that some interns would possibly might see an opportunity to exploit the situation as well, and that's a possibility down that line. But either ways, this internship employer relationship is one that we ought to cherish, because it makes a lasting impact on the interns, and it also provides the person hosting the intern with an opportunity to make an impact on workforce development in St. Vincent and Grenadines.
Okay. I don't know if our friends from the Yes program wanted to make a comment on that one.
Yes. We have to discourage the negativity that is being publicized about abuse and misuse of the program. Because as we said earlier, many of these young persons, they have left school a number of years or just leave school, and they have never had this opportunity. And now that they are granted this opportunity, our whole mantra is to encourage them to do their best at all times. So if we continue to sit down and listen that this is abuse or this is whatever, they're not going to get anywhere. So we have to dismiss all of these other negative vibes and give them all that is necessary for them to move into a place of be receptive to good learning so that they can reach places. If we keep sowing this seed of negativity, activity, we are not going to get anywhere. So we have to start to focus on the positive things and encourage them to do good at all times.
Thank you very much. And with that, Mrs. Anthony, you've had the last word. We are basically to the end of the program, but it was such a fantastic discussion. I mean, we could do this for another hour. And I hope that there are individuals out there looking at this program who would take this information, and whether it's an opportunity with for your child going to secondary school through the Brown Initiative, or you intend to apply to be trained on the YES program, or you're a student at the community college, the Technical Vocational Division, you would understand the purpose of the internship and take it seriously. Mrs. Brown and Kyle, thank you so much for joining
Great
me.
help. Thank you for
Thanks for
having
having
us. It was
us.
great.
Thank you so much, Ms. Duncan
Mrs.
and Mrs.
Marshall,
Anthony.
may I interject here, please?
Yes,
Okay. I
you
just
have
want
two
to implore
seconds.
that. Yes, I was also want to implore that we need to get the young men to
That's our
register
area.
on the program. We need the young men. The
That's
young
our
men
area, Miss
lost.
Marshall. That's our
Okay.
target area.
All
All
right. So
right,
I
we
hope
need the young men.
young men
That's the
are
last
watching.
thing. We need the young men.
All right.
That's
Thank
who
you
we
so much.
target.
That's who we target. Excellent.
Yeah.
So lots of opportunities out there for young men, and with the new economy, with the expansion of our economy, rather than St. Vincent and Grenadines, so many opportunities are out there. Listen, you cannot go wrong with an internship. Kelson Boynes, my buddy, Mrs. Anthony, Miss Duncan, Kyle, Mrs. Brown. Thank you so much for staying up late with Sion Marshall.
Thank
I
you, Mr.
thoroughly enjoyed this
Marshall.
program, and all the
Thank you
best.
very much.
Take care. Have a
Okay,
good
all the
one.
best. Bye-bye.
Yes.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
And with that, we've come to the end of the program. Until next week, thank you so much for staying up late.